What will Donald Trump do to the stock market? What will Donald Trump do to the economy in 2017? And let's have a look at some stocks in focus. Two banks, CBA and Medibank. I'm Peter Switzer.
I'm Paul Rickard.
And we're mad about money. All right, Paul, let's talk about Donald Trump and the market reaction. I've got Michael McCarthy saying it could be a 10% sell-off. I think Shane Oliver said the same. What do you say?
Well, first of all, I don't think he's going to win, but let's say that he does, and we get an inkling of that by late afternoon. My guess is that the market is not going to sell off as much as people had feared. I just think there's a bit more acceptance of him, and not so much what he stands for, but some of the sentiment in the US about why people are voting for him, and that as people get more comfortable with things, reactions become less. I think some of the fear about Trump has gone. Not saying it won't be there, but the sell-off might well be in the overseas markets. The US will do what it wants to do, and I guess if he does get elected, Wall Street won't fare as badly as some may have pontificated.
Yeah, and I guess what actually happens is they do look at these policies and say, well, what companies are going to be negatively affected, which one will be positive. I thought there'd be about a 5% sell-off when I was first asked the question myself. Others say 10. I do think the smarties would start thinking what looks like good value after a 5 or 6% fall. So maybe 10 is excessive. But I do think there will be definitely negativity if he gets up.
And if you mentioned before, Peter, it does throw into the whole question about whether the Fed will raise rates in December.
Correct.
So they could go in a little bit, hold a little bit. Yeah. So you'll just wait and see what happens. So look, it may not. I don't think he will get up. I think Clinton's going to win this. But look, if the worst happens, from my perspective, he does get up. Yeah. The Asian and the European markets react. My guess is Wall Street won't do as much damage as people are fearing.
It will be a buying opportunity, but there'll be a bit of nerves ahead of it.
It may come out over a number of days.
Let's go to the economic effects. I wrote this morning on Switzer Daily that 2017 is looking pretty good, but Donald could actually just undermine that pretty goodness.
Yeah, he could. I mean, I think that's also, we were talking earlier, we're picking up some of the themes coming out of the company AGM season, which sort of hasn't been that positive. I mean, between October and November, most companies hold their AGM. They don't get too many chances to go public, so this is a chance for companies. In many cases, they've got 3 or 4 months of trading conditions behind them, and we've seen, by and large, where they have said something about their outlook, it's been downgraded. Now, that, I think, partly reflects what's going on. I think the economy is underlying reasonably strong, but I think the last few months with, Australian election, US election, you now go
OPEC, Italian referendum,
all the rest of it. That's come back. You asked me what's the economic effect of Trump. I think Trump, in the short term, if he gets in, is a negative economic impact, because companies and investors are just going to go a little bit quiet and say, well, what are his policies? Who's he going to have in his cabinet? There's really been no discussion of who might be his economic team. And what does that mean? And in that sort of vacuum of information, and companies tend to put off investment decisions. So that can have a negative impact on the economy. So that's why I think the Fed may have question marks about whether the Fed goes in December.
I think there'll be a confidence effect, and it comes at a time when the global PMI, Purchasing Managers Index, has hit 11-month highs. That's a great thing. And capital economics has upgraded world growth to 3%. So all these things are looking good. If we have 6 months of confidence question marks because of Donald Trump, it might slow that down, and that's why I think it's going to be his biggest thing. Fortunately, because he's a property developer and a real estate salesman, philosophy is not going to get in his way. He can break a promise easily, which could be good for the US economy eventually.
Good. Let's see, break most of the ones he's made so far.
Let's go to the banks now. Commonwealth Bank and Medibank. Boy, the report.
Yeah, Commonwealth Bank, a little disappointing yesterday. It's only quarterly numbers. The 2.4 cash was the same as the corresponding quarter in 2015.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why it came off yesterday. Look, it did actually talk about positive jaws, but also there was almost no, revenue growth is slow. And I think that's the big theme out of the 4 major banks. There is no revenue growth, or revenue growth is negligible, so they're almost ex-growth stocks. So I think the banks look okay, but it's more a view that the annuity income from that dividend is what makes it attractive. It's not because there's going to be a huge increase on shareholder returns through higher dividends or higher return on equity. So Look, again, a weakness, they're buys, but they're probably, if the market really surges, they'll go well for a while, but eventually they'll go outprice themselves.
Also, internationally, banks are set to be in favour. European banks, American banks, particularly if Hillary wins.
Yeah, so they
and they will benefit from that.
So if Trump wins, maybe US doesn't increase interest rates, bad for US banks, maybe have an impact on our Australian banks. Medibank's the other one in the news this morning. It's AGM. It's provided some guidance. Look, it's pretty flat. In fact, its guidance is operating profit from the health business unchanged from last year. Revenue growth almost slowing, and premium growth about 1.3%, which isn't much, given, and they're losing market share. So look, Medibank fairly, I'd say, it's a bit of a negative outlook.
You sold out at the top, didn't you?
I don't like Medibank. I just don't think it's. It got caught up on the whole health stuff, as though this is one of the stocks with huge tailwinds. I don't think health insurance is. It's overpriced. That is, it gets more expensive. People don't pay for it. I don't think it has tailwinds. In fact, Medibank is losing market share, has been losing market share for decades. I've never understood how it ever got to 325 last year. The market won't like what it's got to say much this morning. Not in the value range yet.
So you're mad about Medibank?
I'm mad about Medibank.
I'm Peter Switzer.
I'm Paul Rickard.
And we're mad about money.